All right. Hello, Mr. Brown, lead programmer on Black Dahlia. Am I getting the title right?
Yeah, correct.
Because I called Steve lead designer, and he was like, nope.
Yeah, no, I'll take the credit.
Right. If you'll start by rewinding the clock, and what was your life like before you hit take two and joined the Black Dahlia team? It's like,
yeah. So I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version here, so I don't spend an hour telling my life story. But
just the professional side of it, it's okay. We don't need any college stories or anything.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit relevant to how I ended up there, so I'll just try to go over it real quick. But it goes way back to my dad was an educator and pretty educated guy, but he having the summers off from school and whatever, he was a fairly blue collar guy aside from that. So he did a lot of odd jobs to make extra money, to construction and plumbing and electrical work and drywall and cement and like the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up part of that and learned all those trades, kind of very hands-on kind of stuff. And I was also a fairly creative kid, learned music at a very early age. And anyway, so all that took me to college, where I started a degree in engineering, not software. Computers were barely around in the early 80s. So I started that as a freshman. One of the required courses was you had to have a semester in basic programming, and so the professor's like, well, just go down to the computer center and log in. I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Right. So that didn't go well, and I barely survived that course. But anyway, so fast forward to, as a senior, I needed an elective, so I took a course in Fortran programming. And this is on mainframes, right? So I started doing it, and I kind of was like, oh, I get it. It's like building stuff, except in a computer, right? So it kind of clicked for me.
Yeah.
That like the hands-on part and that kind of came together in my head. So fast forward again, out of college, I took a job doing mechanical design at a small startup. And we were building this prototype machine, and I was doing design on that. And we came to the part where we needed a control system to run it. And PLCs were really expensive back then. So I taught myself C code and wrote the kind of a very bare bones script engine that ran the computer, or ran the machine, right?
I love the understatement of I taught myself C code. I had a Commodore 64 when I was a kid and did like basic programs and stuff, but going
this
from
is
that
on like a 286 computer, probably.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I was going to say that. I mean, there was no internet, and some guy who gave me a book about C programming, so I learned it. And this script engine I wrote, which I didn't even know that's what it was called then. It was just like a way that I could compartmentalize and model the different machine processes without hard coding all that, right? So that became that was kind of one critical part that came together later on. That company got sold to a big company, which then told me to go home. Thanks for your work. See you later.
Yeah.
Which landed me in another job where I did a lot of like database work, writing software for like accounting and inventory and all those kinds of businessy things. And it was written in this kind of basic like language in a Informix project.
The really interesting stuff. I mean, Ken Williams got his start as a database programmer too. So
yeah. So we got all that finished, and then that place said thanks, and then sent me home again. And
Pittsburgh really has a high turnaround rate, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. So this will come together in a minute, but
All right.
yeah, sorry. So I had a few months out of work, and I started writing demo code. I took C back up again and started writing a bunch of demo code, including a big text-based interface library that I hooked to a database engine, and then ended up like running a friend of mine's dental business practice or whatever. So the interface part was there. Eventually, that led me to Take Two, which at the time was not called Take Two. It was another company, which I can't remember, started by Mark Strummett, local guy. Some months after I started, that got bought by Ryan Brandt and turned into Take Two. But so I started at Take Two sort of as a periphery programmer, and all their user interface stuff was just kind of complete hacked together garbage, basically. So I started working on that, and I built an interface library for them, but with graphics instead of text-based or whatever. So that kind of pulled that in. Fast forward again, I got put as assistant programmer on the Hell project, which was kind of a disaster, that project.
Yeah, I keep hearing about how no one had any fun with the Hell, which I know it kind of sounds obvious when you think about it, but yeah. Steve also called it a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, it was kind of. I mean, at the time, everyone was sort of in camps. You know, there was like the cool guy art guys, and there was the super nerd programmers, and there was, you know, the quiet genius developer designers that kind of came out of the closed room and said, "Here's the design," or whatever. So that's sort of how that worked. And but so past that, I got asked to be lead on Ripper, which not exactly sure why. I think maybe just because of the way I approach stuff more as an engineer than as a coding guy, right?
Yeah.
So that happened, and there we were. So that was that, and then on to Black Dahlia. So yeah. the script engine part came with that too. When we got into Ripper, I told Mark that they had this really awful game editor thing, which was kind of an afterthought and was broken all the time and all that. So I said, like, I'm going to write a script engine for this game. He's like, "You're crazy." And I said, "No, I'm going to have all the designers writing code." He's like, you're out of your mind. But I did it, and that's what happened. So we were able to scale. A whole bunch of the staff was writing locations and levels and stuff like that for Ripper, as opposed to a couple programmers coding it all. So that's kind of was the genesis of how all those things merged together.
Yeah. All right. So Hell runs on an entirely different engine then. There's like no surviving code between Hell and Ripper and Black Dahlia.
No, that's right. Hell was, I mean, I don't know if you played it or not. It was like static background with little sprites running around. And
yeah,
we had a bunch of technical problems with, you got too many sprites and it wouldn't run well and things like that. So, but that was pretty much it. The game editor they had just said, like, when you click this guy, say these words, or, you know, that kind of a thing. So there wasn't a whole lot to it. And go to the next scene, basically.
Oh. All right. So were you like a lead architect of such on the Ripper engine?
Yeah, so I started from scratch on that and wrote the script engine. The script language was not computer languagey like you would, not like Python or something like that, right? But it was kind of a hierarchical command system about this establishes the scene, and then these are the hotspots. And if you click the hotspot, you do these codes, play these things, show a picture, that kind of thing.
I mean, it's kind of like I'm a Sierra kind of guy, so they had their SCI scripting language on top of the game engine code. So programmers on Sierra games weren't technically programmers; they were scripters.
Right.
They had all the libraries all taken care of. All they had to do was write scene-specific script code to get the the characters to do stuff and such. So that like what you were doing?
Yeah, I think similar thing. I mean, I had never heard of anything you just said at the time. I mean, we were sort of working in a black box, so I just was sort of winging it, and
I mean, what
but
were the
yeah,
challenges of like getting like video? Because Ripper is a pretty big FMV game,
yeah,
so getting a video play. Obviously, there was sort of FMV in Hell, but
right,
I'm guessing it. First of all, it ran at like 3 frames a second,
yeah.
and Ripper needed a bit more for Christopher Walken's powerhouse performance. So how'd you sort out the video, getting it streaming off the disc in a fairly good quality? I mean, Ripper runs in full screen in 640 by 480, which
Right,
is, and no interlacing, which is a technical feat in and of itself.
right.
Most FMVs had that rat bastard interlace thing. So how'd you sort that out?
Yeah, well, so right, so Hell was we were using AVI files, which were not compressed at all.
Ooh.
It ran like total crap. There was Stephanie Seymour was in that. If you remember she was the Victoria's Secret underwear model, right? It was the boss's father's girlfriend at the time. So, but anyway, so she was in it, and her videos wouldn't play, and so like at the last second, we made a decision to copy the audio files to the hard disk and put the video files on the CD and like stream them both at once and try to sync them up. And that's the only way we could get it to work. But it was a total mess. So when we got into Ripper, we made the decision to go with Smacker, which everyone ended up using.
Yeah.
But so they had really good compression, and playback performance was really good too. I'm sure it was all written in assembly or something. But so we did that, and that's how the video ended up.
Okay, so it's Rad Tools' Smacker player basically
Yeah.
running inside the game. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
so the script engine would have various events like play this file, do something, go to the next scene, all
yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. So it's fair to say that Black Dahlia kind of runs on a version 2 of Ripper.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, the script engine got rewritten and expanded quite a bit, and Dahlia to be like more interactive. It did more things. You could there was kind of I don't know, threads to it, so you could kind of jump here, do a script, jump back to another script. The scripting got integrated into like the inventory system. We had most of the puzzles where you were sliding things around were hard coded in C code, but then the puzzles could spawn like other scripts, and so it was kind of much more interactive, and there was more things to do, like the spin vision and things that you would slide and all those kinds of things. So
yeah. And also one thing that jumps out is, and this was in Ripper too, but every once in a while you have to type in, like in Ripper, you have to type in a password. In Black Dahlia, at one point or another, you have to ask the train guy for Winslow's name, and you have to type that in. And it really looks like, now forgive me, I'm not a technical person, but it really looks like you've got text mode sort of super implanted on top of graphics mode. Is that?
Yeah, right. So all the interface system that I wrote way back starting out went forward the whole way through. And since it was all graphical based, you could kind of tile bitmaps together to build whatever the frame of the pop-up menu or whatever. And so you could integrate that right with any piece of art. Exactly what you're saying. So you kind of like superimpose the interface system on top of whatever the current piece of art was.
That's cool. I've never seen an FMV engine do like all these little sorts of trickeries. Like you said, the 3D wireframe of the Dahlia and all that sort of stuff. It just feels like there's like a ton of different modes all colliding every once in a while.
So I mean, the beauty with building a game engine versus just coding the engine is you're really just coding the capabilities, right? And you can leverage all those capabilities that in new ways that maybe you didn't conceive. So as we were going through on both projects, Ripper and Dahlia, but as we were going through development, somebody would say like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And then you could just leverage the pieces that you already had and maybe enhance them or make a variation of that. And then you could kind of script that together and do more interesting things. Yeah.
And like you say, most of the puzzles were sort of hard coded. So the puzzles, the logic puzzles were all sort of in their own world kind of thing. So when you trigger that, it just jumps into like some sort of specific, this is the puzzle and here is its code. There's no like standardized.
Yeah, right. So the part of the script engine was you could fire events in the engine, and each puzzle was assigned an event. And then the as far as state tracking, the script would also track what videos were played as part of the state. So they could say, like, if this video is, like if the intro video was already played, don't play it again, like that kind of thing, right? And then we had sort of generalized milestones, which was just an array of numbers that you could define textually, whatever. So you would spawn a event 20 that was a puzzle or something, right? And then say, if you win, set this milestone in the script engine. And then when it comes back, when the script picked back up, it could say, like, did you win? Play this video, otherwise do this kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my notes. There was 42 manually coded puzzles, which was a bunch of the work. Ripper had probably not that many, but all, again, manually coded. So,
yeah. Wow. So going back to the interface of Black Dahlia, Ripper was node based in that you had a little FMV. It would zoom in on a desk, and then you get the close up of the desk. You go away from the desk, and then get the little zoom out FMV. You turn your head, it's another FMV. But Black Dahlia had the 360.
Yeah,
you could spin all around. What was the decision to do that?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact genesis of it, but someone had seen it. I think, I don't know if QuickTime VR was just in its infancy, and I can't remember if another game actually had that before we did it, but somebody saw something like that somewhere and said, can we do this? I don't know.
So that was just like, I mean, it helps with the immersion. I mean, it's still technically node based, but so I'm thinking like there must have been some technical, because you still had the transition FMVs, like you're standing somewhere and then you walk over to the desk. The 360 thing has to pan over to the exact same spot where the FMV starts. Do you have to like manually do that, like specify some coordinates, like if the player
you did. So in the script engine, there was a debugger in the game. So you had this kind of console to the side, and you could draw the hotspots or move them and shape them. And then when you were going to play the next scene, you could load up the next scene in the debugger and show the first frame, and you could kind of jump back and forth and kind of with arrow keys tweak the scene till it matched, and then say that's the spot, and then that it would kind of rewrite the script for you to set that, right? So, but yeah, the Spin Vision thing, I did a bunch of prototypes with that. There was I tried a real 3D engine to see how I could model it. It seemed like that wasn't going to fly. I mean, it could work, but it wasn't going to be kind of quality high res that we were looking for. So I kind of came up with this idea that because all the scenes were modeled in 3D Studio, which was the modeling program that all editors use. So they built those in that program and textured them. And so what we ended up doing was at each spin node, the artist set up a camera in the modeling environment, and they spun the camera every 2 degrees or 5 degrees or something and took a shot. And then I had a utility that I wrote that took that movie that they made, sliced out like a strip of it from every frame, and then glued them together into a panorama, right? And then I created like a like a rendering array or a rendering mapping, basically, which would be the same as a 3D engine would do, but it was static because it was always the same for that scene, right?
Mm.
So you basically project, I don't know how to describe it, but so you have like your picture, and then you have kind of your arc, and you project through every pixel and see where it maps onto the arc, and you build a table of that. So as you were spinning, it was like mapping those pixels to the picture you would see, and then it would kind of unstretch the panorama and display that as the image as you were going. And it did that in real time.
Yeah, I had a friend who was trying to teach me how QuickTime VR did it, and he showed me this diagram of like a camera in the middle, and then this sort of oval around it, and then basically what QuickTime VR would do was just spin that camera around inside this little circle that you got around it. But QuickTime VR, as far as I understood, was basically just a long strip, like a long panoramic strip of photos, just stitched into one, just a 360 panorama, without those funky bulges in the pictures that if you look at Black Dahlia's 360s, they all sort of bulge out.
If you look at it out of the game, you're right. So if you take like your iPhone or whatever phone you have, and you do a panorama with it, you look at the result, it's got all the same warp things, right? So you take, I don't know how to describe it, but when you build that panorama, then you like unwrap it back flat, any one section of it. And I don't know if QuickTime you could look up and down.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Depends on how high the image was.
Yeah. So, right. If you have stitched together images flat, I don't know if you're going to get the same. Well, I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, if you render anywhere in the circle, you're going to have perspective at every single angle. So there's kind of no really good way to stitch that together without I'm kind of junking up the pictures.
Yeah. Okay, I know this is hard to put into layman's terms. I suppose I've never actually noticed that my phone does the same when you do panorama, but it does. It really does. Yeah, because of the perspective changing. I suppose maybe like QuickTime is just one flat image and the camera is just panning, like tracking.
Yeah, it's more doing that. But to stitch together those flat images, it has to do some magic to alter those pictures to get them to mesh. So you're always going to have issues with that. But when the way we did it, you only had like maybe a 10 pixel strip out of each one. So you eliminated the perspective. Then you glued all those together, and then you could remap, stretch that back out, and it works.
It works. Yeah. And I'm really glad you guys went with like a foot glued to the floor node-based thing. So the backgrounds of the FMV matched what you were seeing in game.
Yeah.
Because I think if you gone for the 3D polygon look, there would have been like this big disjoint between the world.
Yeah. Right. So it's all seamless because everything is shot from the same 3D camera in the modeling program, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So FMV. So you guys decided to go with Smacker videos, as did pretty much everyone in the 90s. So on the discs, all the Smacker videos are exposed. So you can these days you can just play them in VLC player, except for a few of them. A few of them have this weird extension called TSH. And I had a couple of buddies of mine try to reverse engineer this thing because they sort of realized this is a Smacker video, but it's wrapped in some sort of Take-Two voodoo magic that separates out the video and audio tracks, and they could not crack it. Why does this thing exist?
Yeah, so if you go back to the very beginnings of Ripper, and when we made the decision to use Smacker, so the tool they gave you was you essentially could write a configuration file that said use this video, we used Autodesk Flick files a lot, or AVI files, And so you use this video and then stick these audio files at these frame numbers or whatever, which we had hundreds of videos. There's no way you were going to do that manually with config files, right? So, so my family was away this one weekend, so I grabbed my computer from work and I hauled it home and stuck it in my living room, and I spent the whole weekend building an audio video editor, kind of a pretty bare bones kind of a thing. So it would load the video file and generate thumbnails of it, and you could scroll through them and then load WAV files at the image or whatever frame visually, and then you could play that in real time and tweak it and move it. And then aside from the just the audio or the voice, you had various Foley effects and all that kind of stuff that were glued in.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the genesis of that video editor, and we used that in Ripper exclusively to build all the cinematic scenes. When we got into Dahlia, another guy and another programmer took that over and they started enhancing it. And the THS part is really what it is a container file that can hold either multiple cinematics or cinematics and pictures and different things. So you can sequence, like play a video, show a picture, play another, and you're not in and out of the script engine to kind of where it would make gaps. So it's going to play that and so a couple of things that does is it keeps it seamless when you're playing it, and it also eliminates a lot of work that like the video editing guys would have to do. Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we showed this other picture at the end that the artist made, kind of a thing. So you can kind of make these pre-scripted sequences of individual things. But in the engine, you just say play it, and it plays.
Oh, okay. So stuff like the intro, for instance, this is just conjecture really, but I'm imagining that might have been like 2 or 3 video files, and they're like stitched together in this TSH formats. Yeah. So they all play seamlessly. Okay.
Yeah, there's other ones where like, the characters say like, oh, what's this thing? And he'll reach to pick it up and it'll show like a blow up of it.
Yeah.
Right. So the compositing guys just made the cinematic part and then the artist rendered that picture, and then we could glue that together into one seamless playback. And then the sound guy could add sound that was through that transition. It's kind of
okay. So it's basically a multi-track smacker thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So you can have several video streams, and you can like add audio files on top of existing like baked in audio.
I think so. I don't remember all the details about it, but yeah, I mean, it would build it built the audio into the SMAC files, and then you could also then sequence other things in video on top of it too.
Beautiful. Well, that explains why we couldn't reverse engineer the thing.
Yeah,
because they
were
looking.
Think it's a horribly complicated format, but if you have no idea what it is, then yeah.
Because I remember they went, okay, we got the video out, but there's no audio. The audio seems to be a separate thing. But I think they were just looking for like a single video track, a single audio track. And they were going, why does this thing not match up? Okay.
So why it was only some of the cinematics, I can't tell you that. I don't remember why. I think the sound guy did the majority of them with the old editor. And then other things, the new editor was coming online, and we did more stuff with that towards the end, I think is what happened.
Yeah. And also, I guess most of the FMVs, like Ripper, is 2 guys talking. So you don't really need. But interestingly, the background music, as in Ripper, is a separate audio file, a separate Smacker audio file, actually, that just plays throughout the whole thing. There's no background music in the FMVs themselves. So why make that choice? Is it just so that you don't have to like fade out the audio, bring in the FMV audio, and then fade that back out?
Yeah, I think some had specific background stuff. The reason to, if I remember, the reason to play the music throughout was just to kind of keep you in the continuous environment, so you weren't kind of this jarring cutscene kind of a thing. So it felt like there was a continuity to it.
Yeah. And also, thank you for putting in a volume slider in Black Dahlia. Ripper had this. I don't think there is a volume slider in Ripper, and sometimes the music just drowns out whatever the FMVs are trying to tell you. So thank you very much for the volume slider in Dahlia. But one thing we discovered, which we thought was quite interesting. I say we. I'm not a technical guy. I had no part in this, but there are a couple of guys on my Discord who are trying to look into this thing. So they were looking into the video player in Dahlia, and they were trying to turn off the black bars, the interlaced thing, because it makes you go all wobbly-eyed if you play for more than an hour. Right. And they discovered it was like hard-coded into the engine. There's no disable the black lines. Even though the FMVs have no black lines in them.
That's not actually true.
No.
Yeah, so the videos are encoded with the interlacing. And the reason for that is you only have half the video, so it compresses down substantially more. So as you know, it was 8 CDs. So we didn't want like 20 CDs, right? So depending on how you're playing them, the Smacker player will it'll double the lines when you're playing it, so it looks like there's no interlacing, but there actually is.
Oh.
So if you look at, because you mentioned that in your email to me, so I pulled one up I have like the original Smacker tools that we had from way back. And if you look at the properties of that file, it'll say, yes, it's interlaced internally.
Okay, so the video files are actually like 320 by something, but they get blown up to 640 by 360.
Yeah, they just get stretched every line.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason for doing that with the cinematics versus like the, like the zoom ins and the walk, we call them walk paths, the transition videos.
Yeah.
It has to do with compression. So in a 3D rendered scene, compression works off of what pixels changed. So in a video that's completely generated, 3D generated, you can, as you're moving through it, there's giant globs of pixels that aren't changing much.
Yeah.
So when you get into composited video that's taken, with a real camera, you have pixelation all over the place. And then especially when you compress that down to, it's all 8-bit, the game. So you compress that down to 8-bit. And the entire, if you have a scene that's, zoomed in on a character, you basically have every pixel moving every frame so that it gets gigantic.
Yeah.
So it's just a decision to save space to do the interlacing.
Yeah. It's really interesting because this time it was me. I downloaded like Rad Tools' official converter thing, the one they still for some reason have on their website, and opened them up, and they proudly told me that the FMV you're trying to load is 640 by 360. And I was like, okay, well then maybe it's a performance thing. Maybe like all is hard coded.
I mean, the tools I have from way back report that's the size, but it also says and it's interlaced. So there's not that much data.
See, well, to a layman like me, the interface, I missed that. Okay, so the files are actually half size.
Yeah. Now I thought we had, and I looked. I didn't see anything, but I thought I remembered we had an option in the game to double the lines when we did the playback, because it was a performance problem too to do that.
Yeah. And
maybe it got yanked or something, but I don't know.
It's not in there. Sorry to say, a lot of work has gone into developing shaders to run the game to fake the double lines and stuff like that. Okay, thank you. That clears up a lot, actually. Now that you've got the video files in Smacker format and all the static shots are in PCX, which was also a very common image format back in the 90s, why not obfuscate them on the data disks? I mean, we can just open up all this shit and spoil the game for us ourselves.
I don't know. I guess I would say, why bother? Like, what's the downside?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, nosy people like me like to poke around CDs. See,
I mean, the only risk I could, honestly, we just didn't think about it at the time. I mean, the only risk is potentially the copyrighted material gets circulated or something. Like, I don't know, but it just wasn't really considered.
No, I can think of one risk. The ESRB might go through the material and discover the titty Easter egg.
Yeah, that's possible.
Which no one so far has figured out how to actually trigger in the game, but we know it's there.
No, I can tell you that.
Really? You would be scooping the world if you told me.
Yeah. So I'd have to look. I have some of the original script files laying around somewhere, but there's it's in the telescope, as you know, and it's some it's some coordinates.
Yeah, magic coordinate.
Yeah, based on probably nothing that plays that. Yeah, I don't know. There might have been a clue somewhere about it, but
yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I mean, there are all these Easter eggs, and I think most of them have been found. Most of them are triggered by holding down the Control key or Shift key and clicking somewhere.
I remember that. Yeah,
which is an interesting way of hiding Easter eggs. My favorite is actually the Pearson prank calls in the hotel. Right. But the Italian lady with the Tommy gun is also up there. That's a really good one.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember that one.
It's
maybe I do actually.
The poor boy who's murdered and his grieving mother shows you around his room, and you find some Nordic runes in a secret compartment and such, and she's all somber and grieving as a mother of a dead child would be. But if you control click the exit, she comes in with a Tommy gun and a Godfather accent and just starts blasting all over the place.
I do remember that. Yeah,
that's a cute one. All right, so that's about as much of the in-engine shenanigans that we could although we will come back to some later. But
by the way, so the whole FMV engine also ended up in, I think it was Jet Fighter 4.
Which one? Sorry,
I think it was called Jet Fighter 4. The company that built Jet Fighter we bought like towards the end of Dahlia, and then there was someone had an idea to interleave the 3D flight missions with this kind of ground FMV game where you talk to the commander and do all this stuff. So the whole script engine and everything ended up in that game too.
So it's a flight sim glued in with the Ripper engine. For some reason, I call it the Ripper engine. Now, was there like an official name for this thing?
The engine?
Yeah.
No, I just all the file extensions were AGS, which was Adventure Game Script. That's as as I got. Yeah,
that one's been co-opted now. There's Adventure Game Studio.
Okay.
The freeware software for making point and click adventure games. So that's going to get confusing. It's just like LucasArts had their SCUM script, which was an acronym for Script Creation Utility for Maniac Mansion, which they for some reason kept all the way through the 90s.
Yeah.
So maybe you came up. You can. Let's call it Jim. So I kind of want to talk about the puzzles.
Okay.
I have to, because Steve,
the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah. Well, sort of not. I mean, Steve told me a very interesting thing, which was that the designers of Ripper and I think to some extent Hell as well, or maybe all of Hell, like the designers pretty much came up with the story and the dialogue, and the testing department was responsible for actually coming up with the puzzles.
In which game?
In Hell and Ripper. Basically, the design didn't have really any puzzles in it. The testing department, the QA department, came up with puzzles. Is that true?
I don't know. I wasn't very involved in. I mean, in Hell, I wasn't involved in the production at all, and Ripper, not much. So I'm not sure, but I know both of those games. The designers, like I said, sort of came out of the room and handed down the Holy Grail and said, "Here's the design. Go make this." And the result of that was there was kind of no peer review on it, essentially. So there was a lot of plot holes. There was a lot of puzzles. Like, oh, we need 5 more puzzles. Can you? How about sliding tiles? Okay.
Oh yes, sliding tiles. Oh,
right. So that's kind of how that was done. The Black Dahlia I think I saw Steve's interview, and he told you that we had a team who did this, right? And I mean, Steve was doing design all day. That was his job full time. So he was. You just there you are. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Just pause. Yeah. So I mean, everyone was doing their thing, but we met every day for a few months, and that was kind of the peer review part of it. So somebody, when you got to the puzzles, somebody had a concept or an idea, and then we talk it through, and then somebody'd say like, well, we've already done that, or what about this, or maybe what if we did this instead, or whatever. And Steve and his people would kind of work through that and come up with some possible solutions and what it would do and where we should put clues and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I got was that Dahlia was really the first game out of like Hell and Ripper and Dahlia. Dahlia was the first game that actually had a design committee. Like people actually meet in a room and discuss how this is going to go instead of leaving it up to whoever had the best idea kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, So the reason for that was, like I said, so there was a lot of problems with the kind of one or two guys coming up with a design with no feedback. And so those guys were gone at that point, and we had all lived through the results of that. So we wanted to do better, right? We wanted to make, the whole game is seamless and as quality as we could. So we made the jury has spoken on the outcome of the puzzle. So that's fine. But the goal was to put the puzzles in the environment that they were in, make them feel like they're part of the story, not, more sliding tiles or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We tried to eliminate a lot of the sandwich puzzles that are popular in all those games, which...
yeah, Steve called them sandwich puzzles as well. I got to steal that.
Yeah, I think it's a Popeye reference that it's like Wimpy, I think was the character, like, I'll gladly do this if you give me a hamburger.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right? So a lot of those, if you get too many of those, and we saw other games and some of our other previous games, but it gets really contrived because they just run out of things to do. Like, oh, well, go ask the captain for something and he'll give you the code, kind of a thing. And so we tried to sort of detrivialize the gameplay by making it more seamless and be parts of the environment, and the puzzles. I know that a lot of them were hard, but the intention was that they felt like they made sense in the context where you were trying to solve them. Not just random. How many codes can I punch in the door code or whatever? Like, how many times can you do that?
Yeah, Ripper had a lot of door codes.
And that was because of just basically lack of imagination and lack of, like, we need 5 more puzzles. Okay, we stick a door code in or whatever, right?
I will say, Black Dahlia's puzzles are much more well integrated into the actual story of the game than Ripper.
Yeah, that was the goal.
Ripper feels like it was a movie, and then someone said, "Oh shit, we forgot we're making a game. Let's put some puzzles in."
Yeah, that's exactly what we tried to avoid. And so you can, in hindsight, you can be the judge on how that turned out. But that was definitely the goal.
Well, the you mentioned the sandwich puzzles, and I posed the same question to Steve. So you're there's a lot more focus on these logic puzzles, these self-contained puzzles where you're basically stuck on a screen. You got to figure this thing out if it's a slider or it's whatever. So basically the entire game stops while you're figuring out this puzzle, and then you get to continue with the story, as opposed to LucasArts and Sierra Games sandwich-based puzzles where you can, if something has stumped you, you can go off and do something else and hopefully stumble upon a trigger of some kind. What are you guys just really fans of logic puzzles specific, or was it like a conscious fuck you to the LucasArts design for logic?
No, it was I don't know. I mean, like I said, the sandwich puzzles get kind of contrived, and you're just running around a lot, like trying to figure out whatever. Who do I give the yellow box to that'll finally give me the door code or something, right? And so, right. I mean, unfortunately, like you said, some of them become blockers as far as moving forward. I think a bunch of them you can go do other things, but eventually you have to solve the puzzle, right? Again, but you also eventually have to give the yellow box to somebody to get the door code to, right? So, I mean the reality on the in the trenches, right, with those things was, we had a pretty small programming team, like only 2 or 3 people. We had a big art team, so we could get lots of art. But so we did the design, we took our best shot at it. An artist would go off for several days, building that scene and making the art. The programmer would have to chop that up into little bits and pieces so you could draw them and slide them around and stuff. And so you coded that whole thing, and then you have maybe 3 or 4 days of the programmer's time and several days of art time, and then you play it and it works. And I have 38 more puzzles to go.
Yeah.
Right? So you figure like a week of man hours times 40 puzzles. Yeah. And there unfortunately wasn't a lot of kind of loop back and fix it kind of a thing. So
no, and I will say this is also a recurring challenge in every adventure game design and or just in game design in general. Like if you're close to something, this is what like action game, platform game developers, they always run into. It's like, oh, my game is too easy, I should put in more challenges. And it turns out it's only easy because you're the developer. Everyone else is struggling like hell.
Yeah.
So what was?
No, you're right.
What was any puzzles that you can specifically recall? Was because again, Steve told me that it was a collaborative effort. Someone came up with an idea, it was refined and stuff like that. But can you recall any puzzles that were like specifically your idea?
I don't. I just recently looked at all the hard coded ones. Oh yeah, that. And I don't remember that I specifically had an idea about one or another. So,
all right. Do you have a favorite? Sorry, where is my vocabulary going? Do you have a favorite puzzle?
No, I can't tell you that either.
No.
So the little box thing was pretty cool. I'd say that was probably the most interesting one. Those were.
The one with the water wheel slidey thing?
Yeah, you had to slide all the little pieces and I mean, that was modeled off a real thing. Those were real, and they're completely trial and error. There's kind of it's not really logical at all. And so I don't know. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think the 3D Dahlia puzzle is probably the most absurdly difficult puzzle in the game, but it's also the most technologically impressive in that you actually have to do this thing in 3D.
So we, one of the programmers, he was there long before I got to the company, but he was like the graphics guru, and he wrote the real bottom end stuff about displaying pictures and the graphics drivers, sound drivers, all that kind of stuff. Yep. And he also wrote a 3D engine, which, we made a few, I can't remember what it was called. We made a few space sim kind of 3D games, which I can't remember what they were called. But so he did all that work. So at some point, somebody had an idea like, oh, it would be cool to like stick the 3D engine inside Dahlia. And I'm like, okay. So he programmed that whole thing using his 3D engine, and then we kind of just spawned it as a puzzle from the script engine.
It's cool because there's a similar puzzle in Ripper where you're putting together a coffee mug, but that coffee mug is as a pre-rendered 3D model. So you have to spin that around, and it's very hard to see where the pieces are supposed to fit.
Yeah.
But the Black Dahlia puzzle is technically easier, at least on that front.
Yeah. There's also the folding paper puzzle was also in real 3D.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You can spin that thing around.
Yeah, you fold up the different things. And so he made that one too. Yeah.
Shit, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, Patrick mentioned that at one point the idea was tossed around, and this is kind of disputed every which way. But there was an initial idea of having a full 3D shootout thing in the Austrian monastery, like full on texture mapped 3D thing. And Steve said, "No, it was going to be an on rails kind of thing, like we did in
That's what
Ripper."
I thought it was on Rails too. Yeah,
All
but I
right.
don't remember. It got cut. There was a few things that got cut. There was a couple puzzles that got cut.
Yeah.
And,
I don't think anyone's looking back fondly on the on rails parts of Ripper anyway. So
yeah,
I mean, who knows? Rebel Assault sold pretty well. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the target demographic on that one.
yeah.
All right. So, how big of a game would you say? And again, this is unquantifiable and probably a stupid question, but how big of a game is Black Dahlia in terms of logic? Because there's a lot of triggers and flags and if then do
Right.
something.
Yeah. So the bulk of that is almost exclusively encapsulated in the game scripts, and there's a game script for every location that you visit, and then there's inventory game scripts and some other ones. So, like I said, the whole state machine is captured in what milestones get set, what videos play, and so that entire thing was left to the design team, and we had some QA people working on the game scripts and stuff too. So the actual game engine didn't really have to track any of the gameplay because that was all done in game scripts.
Right. Well, that is a lot. I mean, it's a long ass game, 8 CDs worth, but also if you're just sitting down, you know all the solutions and you skip all the FMVs, it still takes a long time to go through. So there are a lot of flags to keep track of. And rather infamously,
there's 125 game scripts. I'm looking at the directory. It's off the CD, but so right. So all the state logic is encapsulated in that.
Right. Because rather, I suppose infamously is that the first release of Dahlia had people call it a bug in the post office room where you're supposed to mail this box out and then you're supposed to send it to the same place, get it back, and read the manifest. But for some reason, the trigger that's supposed to say you've now sent the box, now the dude is supposed to hand you the box back, that trigger never fired. So people were stuck in that mailroom forever. Does that ring anybody? Because there was a patch. I have a patch disk in my European box.
I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a script file in the patch. I don't remember.
Probably. I mean, it's just a 3.5-inch floppy disk. So
yeah.
Which also included a subtitle patch.
Right.
Because there's no subtitles in the original release, but the subtitles are a bit unorthodox. If you, it's so the FMV plays right, and you've got it basically looks like the script, like the actual movie script, and it just slowly scrolls along the bottom, like in plain text, and it doesn't follow any of the dialogue. It basically just scrolls. Seems like a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah, so typically what we would do is, we'd get the game out barely. The deadlines were always financially based. Like if we don't ship this in the quarter, you're all getting fired.
Oh yeah, that's standard practice. Sierra Online did that as well.
So there was a huge push to get the game out, and then after it shipped, we went back and did the foreign language versions. So with FMV, we weren't going to re-record all the audio, obviously. So subtitles was the only way to do it. And if I remember, I think the hack I put in was I said, okay, well, there's 20 lines of 50 lines of text, and the thing's a 30-second long thing. So I just took 30 seconds divided by 20 lines and scrolled it that fast. Because there was really no way to match it up, without a huge amount of work.
Having to sit there and actually time every line and such.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, now you can do all that with, text or audio to text and kind of reverse engineer or whatever. But
I tried looking at YouTube's auto caption thing for the movie cut I did 4 hours. Not very reliable. I'm glad you went with the other solution.
Yeah. So that's right. We had the script and all that got probably all that text got pasted into the script, the game scripts, and then that's what we did.
Right.
So, but for the US version, there was really no reason for subtitles, which is probably why it wasn't there originally.
People whose first language isn't English would disagree.
Yeah, right. I mean,
or the hard of hearing, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, you're not the only ones. Sierra, very infamously, the first CD-ROM games they did, all the way up to like the late 90s, actually didn't, like if you bought the CD-ROM version, they just disabled text entirely. And everyone in Europe is like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like it's 8-bit compressed PCM audio. We can barely make out what they're saying. And you took the subtitles out because they had floppy disk versions to begin with text in it.
Yeah.
And they just disabled text. What the hell are you guys doing? So, I mean, I can see the challenges in FMV. Like either you bake the subtitles into the FMV, which is a hassle because then people can't turn it off, or you have a graphical layer on top, which has to be timed to the action. And I can see the hassle.
Yeah, I mean, to bake them in, I mean, the video work would have been just ridiculously expensive to do that for every language.
Oh, yeah. All right. So what would you consider the most challenging aspect of like the entire project, like in programming Black Dahlia? Was it updating the engine from Ripper, or was it keeping track of all the scripts and or the bug testing or puzzle implementation? What was the biggest hurdle, the nightmare when you got home?
I mean, the biggest time suck was the puzzles because they were all one-off. You had to code everyone individually, and like I said, there was 40 some of those. The engine, I had the starting point from Ripper, the script engine, but that kind of, as things kept coming up, that kept getting modified continuously the whole time.
Yeah.
One of the big development problems was memory management, and not so much like people talk about today, like, oh, I have to manually free this memory that I allocated. The problem then was, so Black Dahlia was written as a DOS game, and it got released. We had a Windows 1 kind of halfway through development. The graphics guy wrote Windows drivers for it, and we can talk about how that ended up. But so basically, since it was written as a DOS game, all the memory management was through DOS, of which there is none. So with Windows, even way back, the heap, which it's called, which is like the bulk of the memory that takes care of it, it starts rearranging itself and compacting and all these kinds of things. So without that, if you kind of start allocating bits of memory, and then you free a chunk in the middle that's only this big, the next thing that's too big goes on the end, right? And so now you have these holes that never go away. So you had to be extremely careful that your memory was always allocated linearly, and we had some very basic operations, like you could allocate it from the bottom or allocate it from the top, or have blocks of things that you could throw the whole block away. And so I had endless memory leaks, essentially, just because the things weren't unwinding, especially with the new script engine, which was doing all these things all over the place. And you jump here and come back, and jump here and do another thing. And so that was the biggest technical challenge, just because of the tools that we had at the time.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. There is a DOS installer on disk 1, which copies over a lot of files and then tells you to type in bd.exe to start the game, and there is no such file. There's no such
thing, yeah. So, right, the problem with, I think this is what happened, but technical support with DOS was a complete nightmare. I mean, we had this whole team of people that were constantly on the phone, like, okay, type auto exec, no, don't type the word type, whatever kind of stuff. People that have no idea what they're doing, and trying to, you'd have to set memory or whatever you would always run out of memory. We would ship like auto exec files that would give you the most amount of memory you could have, and and all that kind of stuff.
You also
So
had to
there were
write.
all these support problems, huh?
Oh, sorry. Another problem that I know is that you have to write individual drivers for specific sound cards, video
Yeah,
cards,
right.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, so there was more and
Sorry.
more stuff coming out as computers were. Dahlia shipped. I think the Pentium 2 was just coming out, so things were getting better, and there was more variation, and computers were more mainstream. And so there's more and more kinds of drivers and all that stuff. And it was just a huge support problem. And I mean, for months after the game would ship, people would be on the phone constantly, this whole team of people. So I think the decision was made at the end, like, let's just bag it. Most people have Windows now, and we're just going to use Windows, and we save all the support headache.
Yep. And I guess the trade-off is that, like you said, memory management is there's a bit more overhead in Windows, so the game is a little heavier on the CPUs of the time, and memory and stuff like that. But again, like you say, you had pretty souped up Pentiums by 1998 when the game came out. So
yeah. Well, why the installer made it onto the disk, I don't have any idea, but the setup program, yeah.
But then you have a different problem, which is that I like to joke that most Windows games released from like 2000 to 2010 are sort of this dark ages period of computer gaming, because it all had to, like, you have to have a very specific machine configuration. It has to run whatever flavor of DirectX was popular that month at Microsoft. And you have to have, for some games, you have to have Indio codecs that also changed with every update and such. So there's a huge emulation problem with games from this era. Unfortunately, Black Dahlia falls into that, which is also why I think most people do Ripper on YouTube and not Black Dahlia, because Black Dahlia is, if you'll excuse the term, a bitch to get running on a modern computer. So I guess from the time it seemed to make it would make sense to have Black Dahlia run in Windows, because everyone had pretty much the same Windows setup. But here we are, like 30 years down the line, and now it's a massive headache. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate if that kind of wrecked the legacy of the game, which you're kind of saying that's probably what happened. And I don't disagree with you. But yeah, I mean, at the time, that was just the best option.
Yeah, that's but I mean, things are getting better. Virtual machines are getting easier to get up and running and stuff like that. So and it's I really think it's a pity that Black Dahlia got a little buried in the FMV pantheon, so to speak, because it came out at the tail end of a FMV era that was kind of digging its own grave with all the Sega CD slop and stuff coming out. And Black Dahlia is, like, I consider Black Dahlia to be like the last great FMV game of its era, of which there are very few contenders, I have to add.
Yeah, we were sort of like right on the verge of hair metal, basically, right?
Id Software invented grunge, and you guys were still playing prog rock.
I mean, we were like at the pinnacle of metal right before hair metal came out, and then everything went down the toilet, and then we went to grunge. I mean, that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, which is again, is a shame, because I think Black Dahlia is the superior game to Ripper in pretty much every respect, really. So I hope, because no one seems to talk about the game on YouTube, save for a few Let's Plays and stuff like that, I hope this will kind of bring it back in some capacity. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I have infinite reach or anything, or any meaningful reach.
Great. Yeah,
I hope so. So, one thing I wanted to thank you immensely for, I don't know if this was your idea or not, but so many modern games have limited save slots. Like you only get like 12 save games or something, because they have to port this thing to consoles and fit it on memory cards and stuff. But Black Dahlia gives you a whopping 99 save slots, possibly even more. I actually haven't checked. It's just like, well, here they are, and the save files are really small too. So first of all, thank you very much for that. And the little thumbnail that goes in the little save game book thing in game is also beautiful, and you get to name your own save games. So from that perspective, just chef's kisses. But how do you get the save files so small? Because usually, like, in adventure games, you just take a memory dump of the entire game and dump it into a file, which gets
well. So since all the state was encapsulated in the script engine, you basically just save that state out. I forgot we had the thumbnail, so you just screen cap that, shrink it, and so there wasn't a lot of state to play really. You track what scene you're on and the entire state up to that point. But,
yeah.
So one other interesting thing is you can run Black Dahlia and specify a script on the command line and just play that script.
No.
Yeah.
So like a vestige of debug, or
the debug might work. There was like a /D. You could run the debugger. You can also run /W for windowed mode in Windows, which may or may not work.
Not anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it did. And so there was debug mode, there was window mode, and then you can just, because this is how we tested it, but you could just, whatever BD win, and then whatever this, CO1A, or whatever the script name was called, and it would just jump right to that spot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I have to check if the debug still works. I probably would. I'll probably crash the game within 2 seconds, but
maybe, yeah.
I love.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's like resources that didn't ship with the game for the debugger. Like, I don't know, but so. But we had. I mean, whatever I said, hundreds, whatever files. I mean, you can't test those by playing the whole game up to the end and then testing it. So you could jump right to any scene, any script file, and play it.
Oh, beautiful! I love when developers leave debuggers in games. It's so much, because they're usually well hidden. No one's going to stumble on them, but eventually someone will. Sierra had some beautiful ones. King's Quest 3 in 1987, 6 or something. You had to type rat's ass to enable the debugger. Just beautiful things. Oh, which reminds me, another thing I really have to thank you for is putting in cheat codes for all the puzzles, which are unencrypted, like at the bottom of the exe. You just have to work out which cheat code goes with which puzzle.
Yeah, I probably have a list somewhere that would tell you which one's which, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh well, people on GameFAQs have figured it out. Most of them are like little puns associated with the puzzle.
Right. Just clever little things. Yeah,
that's beautiful. So, well, let's. I'm running out of stuff over here. So, in my little note packet here. So okay. The way to run Black Dahlia today is I sent you this email. This guy had this whole tutorial list of things to do. You install DXWND. You have the shader on top that removes the black lines. Is there a command line to remove the black lines, by the way?
I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I think. I mean, I thought there was an option in the game to do that, but apparently not.
There's an options menu button on the when you right click, you bring up the options menu has keybinds and a music slider. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's it. But at least thank you for the music slider. And so the best way is to do all this voodoo, jump through all these hoops. Someone did a fan installer that copies all the game disks onto your hard drive, which is a multi-step process, and might work, might not work. If you run DXWND and Black Dahlia in full screen, it becomes this horribly stretched nonsense that you have to run it in windowed mode for it to make any sense.
Okay.
As a programmer, and not only that, but as a programmer who has actually built the fucking thing, do you have any better ideas for how to run this game today?
I mean, short of rebuilding it, I don't. Yeah, I mean, all that stuff is hardwired to, create images and throw it on the screen through Direct Draw Windows.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even DirectX at the time. It was Direct Draw.
It was actually, I think, DirectX 5, which encapsulated Direct Draw and Direct Sound.
Oh shit! I'm sorry, I'm messing things up. Yeah, Direct Draw is the thing that actually draws stuff. I was mixing up. Yeah.
So I mean, essentially, it's like a frame buffer, and then that dumps it to the video screen, and Windows handles that.
Yeah.
So without rewriting the display engine, I don't know. I mean, it's possible that DOS mode could be rebuilt, which would be another way to do it.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because
as far as the hard drive part, maybe you guys already figured that out, but there's a configuration file, an ini file, that maps all the sections to what disks they're on.
Yeah.
So, and there's a flag. I might have it somewhere, but there's a flag you can set in the ini file that says you're running from a hard drive, and so that eliminates all the CD swaps. The prompting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the game was going to be on 6 CDs, which is why you see on the things there's like 3A and 3B and all the directories, right? So it was pretty clear at some point that it wasn't going to fit on 6 CDs. So I had a utility that would run through the scripts, and then it would calculate how big the resources that it needed for that thing, so we could decide how big everything was, right? So we broke the 6 CDs down into 13 virtual CDs that were groupings of things that went together in the most logical way. And then we took the 13 and we squeezed those onto 8 CDs in the best way we could that were to eliminate the most amount of jumping around. And so that's how so you went from 6 to 13 virtual CDs to 8 real CDs, and the ini file maps that. And then there's another file in the script directory it's like disk geography or something, which tells you what scripts belong to what virtual CD.
Oh, okay. I just imagine if you guys had put out a 13 CD game. Holy shit! Because 8 CDs is, as far as I know, a record. Like outside of like encyclopedias and shit, Black Dahlia's 8 CDs is the winner. You just reminded me of some questions that I've scrolled past and completely forgotten all about. Was there any like pushback from the offices, the powers that be, that you guys come up to them and say, the game's actually not going to be 6 CDs, it's going to be 8 CDs? Did they shit themselves, or were they like, yeah, okay?
I don't know. I don't remember a lot. I mean, we did cut stuff even to get to the 8. And the way stuff got reorganized, there's probably some dead space on the 8. We don't fill them all up. I mean, we could have just filled them front to back. You would have been swapping all over the place.
Yeah.
So there's probably some dead space. But I mean, at that point, like, you're kind of in it, right?
Yeah.
Like we spent all the money on the production and all the things, and you're in it, and it's how much do you want to neuter the thing at that point? And the cost of goods, I think, between an extra disc was probably not that much more. I mean, the cost was just getting it, the packaging and the whole channel and all that kind of thing. One extra disc,
yeah,
maybe not much, but so I think it was like, just get it out at that point. And, like you said, the whole industry was moving along. I mean, after Dahlia, I did an N64 game. So which was Bass Hunter 64, if you've ever seen that.
No, I've never really played a fishing game, to be honest. I was talking to Ken Williams, the CEO of Sierra, and I made some sort of offhand joke that, oh, well, at least it wasn't Trophy Bass, which was their like fishing simulator. Yeah. And Ken just looks me dead in the eye and goes, that was actually one of our best-selling projects of all time.
Yeah.
And he goes, and then he goes, I don't get it either.
Yeah, Bass Hunter sold 500,000 copies or something like that.
Like, I mean, fishing is already a kind of boring activity. Why would you do it on the computer?
I don't know. There was even like somebody made a fishing controller, and we coded the game to use it. It had like a accelerometer in it.
But then again, I probably shouldn't talk. There are Japanese games where you just drive a bus. Like, you have to stop nicely. You can't run people over. You just stop nicely, take them to where you want to go. Trains. It's what the hell do I know? So now you've unwittingly dipped yourself into something I wasn't considering: cut content. Well, are
Yeah.
we talking like puzzles, programming, or was there actual FMV?
I think there was a couple puzzles cut, and the shooter, whether it was on Rails or 3D, which no one can remember, was cut, and maybe a few other little things. I know there was some trimming down a bit. It's when you have the whole video shot, it's a little tough to start chopping it up and deciding like, oh wait, he says this because we need that
Mm-hmm.
6 CDs later or whatever, right? So it's a little tough to chop. So you had to kind of take whole pieces out. And I don't think there was a lot of it, but I know there was some.
Mm. Okay, because it actually kind of makes sense. There is that whole Cleveland bit at the start, which is almost like half the game. Then you have this tiny little sliver in the middle where Pearson is walking around Nazi ruins, opening logic puzzles to actually get the Black Dahlia.
Right.
And that's just like a single little self-contained sliver of the game. And then you jump into the whole, the whole last bit of the game, meeting the Black Dahlia, defeating Winslow and all that.
Right.
So I'm guessing that little sliver in the middle there was probably a little bigger.
Yeah, I don't know. Was there a part on a train too? I can't remember. But
yeah, there's the train like right after you do that, right after you. Also, this is one of those things where you go into Nazi ruins and you're looking for the Dahlia and you're pretty sure it's there, but you got 3 saves and they all have different logic puzzles attached to it. It's not just a dialy thing. It's all right. But yeah, and I don't know if you guys were in a cruel mood or anything, but of those 3 saves, the game is coded so that the Dahlia is always in the last save you open. You have to do the other 2, and there's just nothing in there.
I'm not surprised, but yeah,
that was great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, sure.
But
that
yeah,
was not my fault.
Okay. But once you do that, you get the Dahlia. Someone takes it from Pearson, and we're on to the monastery in 1940 something. So
right.
Yeah. All right. Well, what the hell was I going to say? So cut content. We're not entirely sure, but not anything like from the story, like big chunks.
Not that I remember. I don't think there was a lot pared down because it had to be pretty self-contained.
Yeah. And also, we got the cool little flip cover thing, little fold-out thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to show it because you probably saw it if you watched the Steve interview. But us Europeans, we got the shit version of that.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, I had no idea.
They just chuck the CDs in transparent sleeves and just chuck them in the box. Thanks. That's really all I have, actually.
Okay.
So, Black Dahlia was a DOS game, and then it wasn't. And the puzzles were fair to you guys. Which, I mean, it's not a kid gloves kind of game. It's but it'll give you a run for your money. But I appreciate.
All I can say with the puzzles is we had the best intentions of doing something different.
I know, and there's no like right and wrong way to focus. If you ask me, I mean, I'm not a fan of logic puzzles, but that's a personal preference. Basically, as long as you can integrate, as long as the puzzle doesn't feel contrived, as you say.
Right.
Which in many, especially Sierra games, if I'm being honest, is the case. Although I just recently played Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, and there's an actual sandwich puzzle in that game. Like you actually have to make a sandwich.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm not. Yeah. So I'm out of anything. All I can do is say thank you very much for your time. I know this sort of came out of left field.
No, that was great. Yeah.
So I hope you had some sort of entertainment.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks. So, anything you want to add at the end, or?
Not. I mean, just say that it was. It was a pretty interesting time being part of that. You know, it's just a creative environment. It made some lifelong friends, and it was.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like from everyone I've talked to that coming off of Hell and Ripper, which were sort of clusterfucks in a way, Black Dahlia was like the one game where everyone just had a great time. or at
Yeah,
least
I mean, we were sort of firing on all cylinders at that point, and
yeah.
so we had really good people in place, I mean, it's as far as the retrospective part, I mean that's kind of where it solidified in my career that if you have really quality people, they can work within the reality they're giving and produce magic. Instead of whining about, well, we didn't have this, we didn't. I mean, imagine like Michelangelo making David, and his contemporaries like, well, my rock had a crack in it, or whatever, But
Yeah.
it was really eye opening that you just you have really quality people and they can just make magic, despite the bounds they're working in. So.
I'm very glad to hear that. It's actually been kind of heartwarming, and I think it's a nice wrap up. But like my angle on this is Black Dahlia was the last good FMV game of the era, and it's also very heartwarming to hear that it was also one of the like fondest developments of the era, because usually it's all scramble. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah, well, it was that too, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but everyone seemed to have a good time at least.
Yeah, we got rid of almost all the chaos logistically, and everything was just really well planned and well done, and yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Brown. Right. I will click stop now.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.